Welcome back to the broadcast. We're discussing this morning why do bad things happen to good people. We've broken open the book of Job, and we're looking so far at a couple of things. Number one, Job lived his life in such a blameless and upright way that the promises of God were so strong in his life that the enemy could not even find a place to penetrate. Now, I want to stop right here and throw something out to our viewers and let you, we'd like to hear your feedback on this. If you're in a place to where you can chat with us, I know many of you are watching and you're not logged into the chat, you can email us. I had someone to share a thought with me one time that they didn't strive to live so close to God like Job because they feared that if they got close to God that this would happen to them, that what happened to Job would happen to them, that they would get in such a place with God that that God would actually suggest to the enemy that they come under attack. So Sonia, what's your thoughts? Viewers, we'd like to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on that? About, well, if living this close to God is gonna cause me to be available for attack, how do we come at that topic?
Well, I feel like that a lot of people shy away from the Lord because of that. I think they just back off from the Lord because of that. But in the days of tribulation, what are you going to do then? The devil's going to be unleashed on this earth to the point, and right now, if we have these trials and tribulations with God on our side, then we can get ready for that time, if we so tarry through then, or whatever. You know, I just feel like this is getting us prepared, and I don't think that should drop us back from wanting to go further with the Lord. Of course, I've been guilty through my years, of not wanting to step out there and do things because to whom much is given, much is required type thing. So, but I think that we need to step in there, dig in with both feet, and do what God has us to do, and just really, 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 really not hold back because, yes, the devil's going to come at us and he's going to attack us more, but those trials and those situations are only going to make us stronger for days ahead. And we've got promises in the Bible. God says that he would never put more on us than we can bear, that he would always make a way for our escape, that he would always be with us. He'll never leave us. He'll never forsake us. He'll always be there, even until the end, he says. So, we've got these promises to hold on to, even when the devil comes at us. And I feel like that Job is, God is no respecter of person, and that if Job can get to such a point where there's a hedge all the way around him of protection, I feel like that we can have a hedge of protection by God as well.
And yes. What an honor to know that God would consider you to be such a solid rock of faith that he would suggest you to the enemy.
Yeah.
I want us to keep that in mind. God suggested Job. It wasn't the enemy. The enemy didn't target Job. God suggested Job. What an honor it would be for God to have that much confidence in us and that much faith in us that he would suggest to the enemy, hey, attack them, because I know what they're made of. And also, it just boils down to, like you were saying, it just boils down to believing God and taking God at his word.
Yeah.
Of believing that he's going to watch over us, of believing that he's not going to put any more on us than we can bear, of believing that he will always make a way.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it says in the scriptures that we should count it a joy. We should count it a privilege to be numbered among those who would be persecuted and come under attack just for the sake of Christ. So
We've got one of our viewers commenting, and it says, I would be too afraid not to be that close to God. He is my everything, and when we are in the midst of trials is when God begins to mold us and make us stronger.
Amen. That is so true.
It is.
It's so true because going through that process, of course, Job doesn't understand it in the beginning, but by the time you get to the end of the story, you realize God suggested Job to the enemy because God had more blessing He wanted to get to Job.
Yes.
And in order to get that blessing to him, He had to take him through that trial, through that cutting away. He had to take him through great loss, great sorrow, great sickness, great pain. But God said, I'm trying to get you something. So here's a key word for you. To get something you've never gotten, you have to go through something you've never been through before. And that is so key. To receive that which you've never received, you've got to be willing to give that which you have never given.
Yeah.
And Job gave a lot. Let's look and let's read. Sonia, if you'll pick up verse number 12.
And the Lord said to Satan, Behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay a hand on his person. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were feeding beside them, when the Sabeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another also came and said, The fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another also came and said, The Chaldeans formed 3 bands, raided the camels, and took them away. Yes, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another also came and said, Your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came from across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house. And it fell on the young people, and they are dead. And I alone have escaped to tell you. Then Job arose, tore his robe, and shaved his head. And he fell to the ground and worshipped. And he said, Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin, nor charge God with wrong.
Okay. In one day. Now, the enemy works quick.
Yeah.
So
immediately, when he knew that hedge was gone, he
got on it.
Was on there.
He's vigilant at his job. So it behooves us to make sure we're living that life, that hedge is around us.
Well, it makes us think right now when we say when it rains, it pours. You know how we always say that? You know, things pile in on us. Well, now we can be assured that God has just let down the hedge for a little while.
He allowed it to happen.
He just allowed it to happen for a little while because He trusts us.
And because He's trying to get
something out. I'm about to get hacked.
He's trying to bless us with something. And here's a key. Here's a key for us to remember. In all of this, the Bible said, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Job remained sinless, he remained faithful, and he did not begin to blame God. He did not turn around and begin to say, God, why are you letting this happen to me? Why are you letting this come down on me, God? The Bible said he charged God not.
And that's where we go wrong. A lot of times, I know myself, there's so many times that things happen to me and immediately I'm just like, ooh, God, why are you letting this happen? Why are you doing this to us? We're trying to get our head above water, and about the time we get our head above water, it seems like something just wraps around our feet under the water and just pulls us back under again. And I mean, that's a big problem for us today in today's world, is immediately either we start blaming God and fall off the bandwagon altogether, or just kind of pull back, provide, somewhat, and just try to stay distant from Him. I'm guilty of it myself. I know that there's other people out there that have a hard time not just focusing in and saying, God, why?
It's a human reaction, I think. First of all, go. Why am I going through this?
Yeah.
So that's natural to start questioning, why am I going through this? And then you was talking about how when it rains it pours, one thing after another. The enemy did not get the result he wanted, because Job remained sinless. What the enemy was trying to do is push Job so far that he turned his back on God.
Yeah.
So in chapter number 2, he goes back before God again, and I think God kind of in a tongue-in-cheek sort of way says, well, have you considered my servant Job? Just like he said before. And this time the enemy says, skin for skin. He says a man will give up anything for his life. So basically what he's saying is, you let me touch everything around him. Now let me get at him.
Yeah.
Let me touch him. And so then God removes the hedge of protection around Job physically. Because first he told him, he said, touch anything he's got, just don't touch him.
Right.
Well, now he says, touch him, just don't take his life.
Mm-hmm.
You can take him right to the edge, but don't take his life. Because the enemy was so sure that Job would be self-centered enough that if he could lose everything around him, just don't touch me. So now the enemy comes afflicting his body and afflicting his mind, and he still doesn't get the results that he wanted to get. We're going to take another break, and we'll be back with you to finish out this last segment of today.